and welcome to the FI Newscast, where we bring you relevant news in the food and beverage industry. Today is Friday, March 3rd, 2023. We have a great show for you today. Our special guest is Hunter Thurman, president of 𝗟𝗲𝘁. You don't want to miss that segment. But first, here are some of the top stories from this week that we think are worth taking a second look. Target released their quarterly revenue figures on Tuesday, exceeding Wall Street's expectations for the first time in a year. However, slow sales growth and rising operating costs are taking away from profit. The national retail giant reported $31.4 billion of revenue, up 1.3% from the same period last year. Net earnings, on the other hand, fell 43% to $876 million due to higher worker wages, product promotions to unload inventory, higher rates of theft, and other product loss. In a recent release, CEO Brian Cornell noted the company did well despite, quote, a very challenging environment with food, beauty items, and other household essentials lifting sales as consumers focused on necessities, end quote. But the 2023 outlook remains cautious due to weaker spending. Target also announced plans to launch or grow 10 new brands of products, aiming to price them in increments of $3, $5, and $10. This comes after seeing data of increased sales on throw pillows that cost similar amounts. Seems to be the sweet spot pricing area for consumers. In the drinks category, PepsiCo and Coca-Cola have entered the hard soda market. Monster Beverage just released a line of malt beverage drinks called the Beast Unleashed, containing 6% alcohol, while PepsiCo launched Hard Mountain Dew last year. But some health experts wonder if this could reverse the trend of declining alcohol consumption rates in younger people. And alcohol-related deaths are still high in the U.S. According to a recent JAMA study focusing on the years between 2015 and 2019, about 1 in 8 deaths amongst people ages 20 to 64 were linked in overdrinking. Also in the beverage world, strong words handed down to Starbucks as a National Labor Relations Board judge ruled in favor of Starbucks workers who were trying to unionize in Buffalo, New York. The judge determined that the coffee giant was illegally pressuring them not to organize. The judge has ordered Starbucks to right its wrongs, including rehiring fired workers, paying restitution, and having Starbucks interim CEO Howard Schultz and Senior Vice President of Operations Denise Nelson reciting or being present at a reading of its labor violations and an explanation of employee rights in a recording that must be sent to all U.S. employees of Starbucks. Both sides have until March 28th to appeal. It's all part of a growing trend of unionization efforts at multiple companies across the country, with Trader Joe's, Amazon, and Apple being part of that trend. Continuing into the employment world, a mixed bag of trends with worker retention. The leisure and hospitality industry remains strong in labor demand, with employers working hard to keep the staff they have. In the past year alone, new hires for the sector saw double-digit growth, according to the BLS. Meanwhile, in the food world, various plant-based companies are facing the same layoff woes as in the tech category. Eat Just CEO Josh Tetrick recently announced that they will be getting rid of 18% of its jobs in its plant-based egg division. And Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat are now well known for its multiple rounds of layoffs in the past few months. In restaurant news, an effort to show up and show off their bargains, Cracker Barrel will start offering a line of to-go meals that will only cost $5. The meals will consist of a protein and a side and are meant to be taken home and heated up. It's part of an active push towards their takeout, delivery, and catering category, which makes up for almost a quarter of their total business. And finally, a subtle makeover seems to have paid off. People are taking notice at how Campbell's Soup Company seems to now be profiting big time when it tweaked its iconic soup can design 2 years ago, changing the icons, adding pictures of ingredients, and so on. Amidst a pattern of declining sales over the years, the company has aggressively invested more in its product through things like celebrity endorsements and NFT collaborations. The company went from $6.6 billion in worldwide sales in 2018 to $8.6 billion in 2022. Talk about a change, or rather a whole bunch of changes, doing you good. Campbells, we want to hear from you. Contact us at the Food Institute. We'd love to interview you on your strategies for success. And those are your top stories. We're going to turn now to our special guest. He is the president of 𝗟𝗲𝘁, a consumer cognitive insights firm that specializes on brand effectiveness and growth advantage. They've worked with companies like Frito-Lay, 𝘂𝗂𝗄𝗏 and Kimberly-Clark. He is here to share with us his wisdoms and insights on the food industry. He is Hunter Thurman. Welcome to the show, Hunter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
All right, I want to ask you first. So the Campbell soup can design, your firm covers cognitive insights of the consumer. Do you think the consumer would be really attracted that much more to a subtle change design of a soup can? What do you think?
Yeah, I have not really looked at that in depth, but the most notable evolution is the food imagery. I mean, when somebody looks at a package, particularly when they're making more impulsive decisions, their brain is essentially saying, what will that feel like? What will it be like? And imagery and photorealism is a way to do that. I would venture to hypothesize that that's a big reason for the growth they're experiencing on that redesign.
Wow, fascinating. All right, so let's get into it. First of all, thanks again for being here. I want to jump into some of the news that we just heard, with Target's, strong, results in the previous quarter, but their cautious outlook for 2023, and them being a discount retailer. I mean, what does that mean for what's going on in the consumer's head? Because, stores like Target and Walmart, also the dollar store, projecting very limited expectations for their future performances. And they're already supposed to be on the cheaper end of product offerings out there. What are you seeing where you are about what's going on in the consumer's mind?
Yeah. Well, we always say there are no good experiences or bad experiences. There are those that meet or exceed expectations, and there are those that don't. So, as Walmart reported, I guess last week, it was a less rosy picture than Target. And one of the things we look at, we measure consumer psychology at a large scale. And what we've seen over time and what we see, particularly talking about Target versus Walmart, is that shoppers who prefer Walmart, people that like to shop there, they're driven by this desire, and I'm kind of paraphrasing psychology here, but they're driven by this desire to win. They want to get better deals, better advantages, things that other people that shop at other places don't get. Whereas those who shop at Target, they want to discover, and they want to enjoy and discover new novel experiences. Hence the meme of going into Target for one thing and spending $200, and you're not mad at it. That's because when people go into Target, the success criteria is to discover something new. So, from a pure human, behavioral psychology standpoint, what it says is that as someone goes to Walmart looking to win, and then they go and the prices are, 17% higher or whatever they are, that didn't deliver, because they were looking for advantages. They were looking for unique ways to stretch their dollar, for example. And it says that experience, probably not Walmart's fault, it's the state of the inflationary economy, isn't delivering that. When someone walks into Target, the success criteria are different. And it sounds like Target, while everybody's guidance is conservative, it sounds like Target's better delivering on the experience that their shoppers looking for them to provide.
Right. Would love to get your take on another item we didn't cover in the top story segment, but it's definitely out there, with, inflation rising and, consumers obviously being cautious about, how much they're spending. You've seen a lot of those loyalty rewards programs popping up, limited time offers, special deals. A New York Times article was recently reporting on how even the loyalty rewards programs are scaling back, providing a lot of anecdotes, of individuals who they love their Starbucks, rewards points. They want to get those free lattes, but then opening up their app and seeing that Starbucks is now only offering one free latte instead of two, or Dunkin' Donuts doing the same, or Chipotle offering fewer burritos. The reporting in that story was showing those individual disappointment. But Hunter, what is your professional take on how you think consumers at large are feeling? Do you think they will understand, for the most part, that we're all in lean times, companies as well as consumers alike? Or does this not bode well? Will the scaling back on the rewards, will that really harm companies going forward?
Yeah, there's so one of our neuroscientists did a boil of our total database, looking at people's reaction to increasing prices. And one of the notable things is that we found is that the emotional response to pricing increases is much more potent than the actual dollars and cents. And so when you look at something like loyalty programs, one of the things we're seeing really strongly in our data, particularly with younger consumers, right or wrong, many organizations are really targeting Gen Z, 18 to 25-year-old younger multicultural consumers. In that cohort in particular, and across the broader population, one of the most frustrating parts that consumers are experiencing about inflationary pricing is having to do the work, having to think about it, having to navigate the marketplace. If you think about human behavior, we just want to do what we want to do and not have to work too hard or think too hard about it. So loyalty programs, yes, there's the, are you taking away things? There's some insights from psychology that taking away something is way worse than you can give somebody 3 things and take away 1, and that's worse. Losing something, it's a loss aversion that humans experience. So there is that piece of it, but the bigger component that we're seeing for QSR or things like retail loyalty is don't make them work too hard. Taking it away is one thing, but making them work harder or creating something of a shell game where they have to, keep better track of their points. That's going to be really, really frustrating to people. And it's going to increase that mental work that so many are experiencing and really frustrated with. The more you can ease that, the less punitive it's going to be for your brand. And that's true of loyalty programs in general. It should be very easy, very effortless for a consumer to navigate.
Love what you just mentioned there. Don't make them work too hard, because we're all working hard enough. We don't want to have to work hard to get stuff that we think we should deserve. Right. Psychology really plays a big part in that. Thank you for those insights, Hunter. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to continue digging deeper into the consumer with Hunter Thurman, president of 𝗂𝗲𝘁. Stay with us. Are back with Hunter Thurman, president of 𝗂𝗲𝘁, a consumer cognitive insights firm. And he is here giving us all of his expertise on who the consumer is, what they're thinking, where they're going to be, what they're going to buy, right? You're going to give us all the lowdown so that our viewers will know exactly how to market, exactly how to sell their product, right? Right, Hunter?
That's right. We'll spill the beans. Absolutely.
All right, let's continue on. So let's talk about the state of consumer. Based on the analysis that you perform, how would you describe the consumer, how the consumer has changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, we look at data that goes back pre-COVID, and then obviously up till now. And what we saw prior to, the pandemic was, in general, looking longitudinally, there was this consumer sentiment of what we would call kind of tribal bonding, belonging, gathering around common themes, and there was sort of a social continuity that culture in general was exhibiting. As the pandemic hit, it actually drove this kind of rebellion, this kind of questioning. Obviously, I think everybody in their own experience can relate to, what's going on, what's the path forward, what's right for me, what's going to happen. So this kind of rebellious almost, wait, maybe the ways we were doing things wasn't right. and let's explore something new. That was really, that theme transcended most of the pandemic, with periods specifically correlating to the lockdowns. So when there were big lockdowns and I'm speaking really from the US perspective, we saw spikes in this nesting, people retreating in. And that's what drove a lot of the trends that we talk about and are still being talked about: cooking at home, learning to bake, some of those things. But over the course of the past couple of years, the pandemic couple of years, those were kind of spikes. Really, the more salient signal was this rebellion, questioning, exploring, looking for new and looking to discover new. And that is really, if we look at the trend lines in our data, that has been the consistent theme, that there is this tension, and this is not, I think, a surprise to anybody, a tension that continues to build, and a desire to find experiences, to hire brands, to shop at places, to eat at places that provide some tension relief, that give us a mini vacation to get away from that. So I don't think it's a surprise that this kind of tension has increased, but the why and the so what for food brands and manufacturers and retailers, it's very instructive of what to do next and how to be valuable in the minds of consumers.
I love how you just ended that. I feel like it can take us right into the great graphic that we have that 𝗟𝗲𝘁 has developed, the Food Omni Shopping Roadmap of 2023. You can see that right there. The 3 patterns of shoppers, and I want to go over them with you, these terms, so that, let's see, which direction should we go in? Should we start with the bricks bound or the e-commerce enthusiasts?
I think, starting with the bricks bound, a lot of, especially CPG, manufacturers and retailers, that's still where the majority of the volume is. And so there is this cohort, almost half of shoppers, who prefer what we call psychologically attached, meaning it would be hard for them to give up brick and mortar shopping. And what's driving them, and I think what's really interesting across this map, if you will, and across these data, is that it's not a super rational, pragmatic approach that the majority of shoppers take to shopping. What I mean by that is the bricks bound are driven by taking charge, wanting to be very much in control. They don't want to deal with other people, which is sort of an irony of wanting and liking going into a store, but then being hindered by other people, being around and kind of being in your way and interfering. What's not a overriding feature of their behavior is price. Meaning, and if you look, I'm looking at this map with that kind of red triangle in the middle, you see the point pointing towards taking charge and the point pointing towards social pressure. It doesn't point to price. People are not, there's far more that hinders our behavior than just price. And yet it's very easy to slip into a narrative of, what about pricing? So for a retailer who's looking to create a customer experience for their brick and mortar shoppers, put them in charge and help get them out of the way of other people. I don't know if that means, appointments to come shopping when there are not other people around. There's certainly innovation to be had around it, but it gives this really unique why. And it's not just finding the cheapest deal. Of course, prices are going to matter, but between the ears for consumers, there are other features and factors that define their decision-making and guide their decision-making, where to shop and what to buy when they're there. The other end of the road, if you will, up at the top, the e-com enthusiasts, there's about 20% of US shoppers who really like shopping for food. And this is all food specific data. They like shopping on e-com. But again, the assumption, if you kind of look at the headlines, you look at kind of boardroom discussions, is that they're looking for deals, that it's very practical. I want to find cheaper things and I want to do it very efficiently. What we see in our data is, in fact, that's not why those that are most attached to e-com, digital means of procuring food, that's not why they're attracted to it. For them, it's actually a way to explore. And if you think about a screen in your hand, it's like a window to the world. There's infinite discoveries to be had. That's what's actually driving them. That's what's compelling them into that exploratory phase. And if you look at the point of on the map, time is really what hinders them. So yes, time is an important piece, but it's not because I want to shop faster. It's because I want to discover and explore in a way that lets me do that quickly and in a way that fits in my life. The middle ground, a third of shoppers that kind of don't care. They're kind of gettable either way. That's the only mindset that's kind of pragmatic, that's kind of rational, more methodical. And so what it says is there's opportunity to pull them either way. They're sort of gettable. And if a given retailer wanted to drive their e-com business or wanted to draw footfalls into bricks, that's the most sort of neutral group. And the headline across all of it is that for none of them is price the overriding feature. Yes, it's important, but there are far more levers that manufacturers, retailers, and operators can pull in helping people make decisions to the advantage of their business.
That's fascinating. Thank you for providing that visual, really breaking down the different types of consumers and what they want. I want to go back into inflation, Hunter. We talked about Target and how they're reacting with the consumer and how the consumer is reacting to them as well. But going into just an overall sense, what insights can you give on how the consumer in general has reacted to inflation? And in your professional opinion, how have companies adapted their strategies to elevated inflation?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we talk a lot about is that food and beverage in particular are really directly linked to a person's ability to emotionally self-regulate, which is sort of the quasi-scientific way of saying we can control how we feel with food and drink. There's a lot of physiology, a lot of evolution, but the gist of it is food and beverage is super potent in helping us control how we feel. Even if prices go up double-digit percentage, that's still true. And so, we've got to remember, and this has kind of been my soapbox to the industry, we've got to remember that that food and beverage still plays a really emotional role. And people aren't buying a soda or a hamburger or, a box of cereal or whatever. They're buying a bit of relief. They're buying an ability to help them or those around them feel better. And that's not to say that every brand, should focus on that in their strategy, but it's kind of to those points I was just making about the whys of shopping. It's not all, and it makes sense to us all, right? It's not how many calories can I procure for how few dollars. It's really a lot about emotional self-regulation, helping control how I feel, and comparing that to other things that help me control how I feel. So, soda has very publicly been up 17%. So carbonated soft drink prices are up about 17% across the board. And yet volumes are still continuing to climb. Why? Because relative to all the things someone could spend their money on, it's a pretty efficient way, albeit 17% more expensive than it was, a few months ago. Still a really efficient way to take a little vacation to help me feel better. And the brands that remember and recognize that in their activation, in their promotion, in their strategy are going to win.
I love that. Companies really keying into what might be at the forefront of consumers' minds in terms of ways that their mind could go, and then developing and executing strategy on that. Fascinating stuff as well as all the insights that you have shared. Hunter Thurman, president of 𝗟𝗲𝘁, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of the top secrets that you guys have developed on the consumer.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Well, before we go, let's take a look at what is coming up in the days ahead. On Tuesday, March 7th, Dole is expected to announce its Q4 and full year 2022 financial results. Wednesday, March 8th, Campbell's Soup Co. will release its second quarter fiscal 2023 year results. Thursday, March 9th, LATAM Food Talks with guest 𝗟𝗲𝘁'𝗀𝗄𝗃. You don't want to miss that. And on Friday, March 10th, Bureau of Labor Statistics releases non-farm payroll and the unemployment rate for February. All right, well, that wraps up another great episode of FI Newscast. I hope you enjoyed watching. Next week, we're going to have another great guest. His name is Ben Page. He is the CEO of Ipsos, and he's going to give some great insights for us. He's going to have some great insights for us to hear. So you don't want to miss that show next week. And I hope to see you there next week. Always same time, same place. Be sure to check out all the great content we have on www.foodinsights.com. institute.com. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care.